Hey all, welcome to my channel. Um, Please subscribe, like, or comment, whatever like or dislike. Uh, but I do, ask to subscribe. Subscribe. Um, Please also leave a comment, feedback, any comments, questions related to the content of the channel. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. Please also, when it comes to the questions, I do ask that you do ask questions relevant to the content of that video, so that I'm not lost in like having to go back to a prior video or something like that trying to figure out what I was talking about. Also, leave any comments, uh, and I do read my comments, by the way, and I try to respond to them as when I do get notified. Please leave me any feedback as well too. I mean, and any requests. If you have any requests, I will gladly some content that you want me to rant on or talk about. I'll gladly talk about it. Um, Last night it was pretty funny. The 14th ballot was coming up for Speaker of the House, and you could see the smugness in McCarthy's face. Basically, the smugness of it, where he knew he had it, he thought he had it, and then he just basically was like literally surprised. And the fact that you actually saw it live right then and there on TV after Gates basically said present, McCarthy didn't have it, and he literally goes up and just walks right up to him basically and start, pretty much you could see what was going on, and all the brouhaha that happened as a result. I mean, you could see Gates basically saying like, "Look, I don't know what was said, but it seems like basically Gates was like, look, I did my part. You just got to convince the other guy, basically, and like to say present, basically, which was I forgot the other two guys that voted for Briggs and whatever it may be, because Boebert and Gates basically did their part apparently, but apparently this showed basically that lies. No one's a man of their word. Basically, it comes down to this in this situation in the Republican Party, no one's a man of their word, because McCarthy was, as I said, came in for the 14th ballot. He was absolutely confident, as well as quite a number of Republicans, that he was going to be speaker, voted speaker, and all of a sudden, boom, it wasn't. And then, of course, you had Republicans going crazy against each other, amongst each other, basically. Like, people that were in McCarthy's camp were like going after Gates and Boebert and all such, specifically Gates. You had Marjorie Taylor Greene basically calling down. You could actually see her calling down on Trump, trying to get him involved. I'm like, uh-oh. But in any case, it was funny to the point where, like, as they were ready to adjourn, you saw the chaos that was going on, where like basically you saw McCarthy frantically is like, no, hold on, bringing out the red card type of thing, a red piece of paper, basically, to hold off the adjournment. That they want a lot of the Republicans want to change their votes from adjournment to let's do one more vote for a 15th vote, basically. And of course, McCarthy did win. To become Speaker of the House, but at what cost? Well, now that's a different story. Now the majority basically has every right, just needing one vote and one vote only, to have a vote of no confidence against the Speaker of the House, which means they could like now do this over again. Same thing with the number of bills that are being presented into the floor committee, into the floor itself, as well as there's that. There was another aspect of also what who can be on what committee, basically, like kind of a selection committee, basically, like who steers the selection committees into like being into what committee, basically. It's it's to a point where like, does McCarthy do all that? Because reality is, you know what, Gates lied on the 14th ballot. So if I'm McCarthy, I'm like, you know what, I don't have to honor your thing, basically, because you lied. So yeah, I lied too. See ya. And then it doesn't have to do the vote of confidence, no confidence type of thing. Let's see if Gates can actually round up 150 of at least 160 of the Republican votes to like oust McCarthy. Highly, that's going to happen. This won't be easy for McCarthy to govern this Speaker of the House. I mean, this is one of the rare few times, I think, where you'll see a Speaker of the House where his power has been diminished considerably, or yeah, the power of the Speaker of the House has been diminished considerably. That it's going to be very hard to govern. Um, it's going to come to the point where like we're going to see how good of a lawmaker, not lawmaker, but like how good of a leader and elected official he is, as well as how good he knows how to play politics. Um, because let's be honest, let's be upfront and honest. You know, Gates, Boebert, and all the others, basically those 20 standouts, they were pissed off. McCarthy thought he had the red wave, and he didn't, and he lost them. And these people basically was like, you know what, we don't need you. I mean, he basically said, I don't need you guys, and it turns out he did need them now. And now they have, you know, basically this is a point where like they're fearful of their aspect of their district because they almost lost their district in the last election. So like they're scared and they need help again, and they don't want to lose that. And the other aspect is as well too is, you know, they want. I mean, I understand they want a voice, but at what cost? Because you just basically created chaos within the Republican Party, which is interesting. So the question comes down to now is this enough to galvanize the Republican Party to come together, to the point where, like, you know, bullying can't happen at this point? I'll quite honestly, you have no choice but to bully. It's a case of House of Cards, the American version, that is, the American version of House of Cards. You would need that to basically understand what would happen a little bit, to the point where it's still surprising, quite honestly. It's still very surprising, to be quite honest, why some people in the McCarthy camp couldn't have just voted for Jeffries. Like, you know, all you need is 2 or 3, basically. Just vote to have 2 or 3, vote for Jeffries, and freak the 20 Freedom Caucuses out. They was like, holy crap, we're gonna lose it, and the Speaker of the House is gonna be a Democrat, and freak them out to the point where, like, I was like, okay, and then put them back in line. It would have been a gamble, but it could have been probably a good gamble. Now the question is like, would they see this facade and basically it's like, oh yeah, you're not gonna vote for Jeffries? Well, to the point, like, you know what? If I'm like 5 moderate Republicans who know that I'm gonna be coming out, you know, like I'm not gonna run for in 2024. It's like, all right, or retiring in 2024. It's like, you know what? Screw this. Let's screw these 20 basically. It's like the fact that, or specifically these five, screw these 5 basically. It's like, you know what? We won't have 5 people hold the House of Representatives hostage and meet their demands. Because the fact is like, you've got the loyal Republicans, the absolute loyal Republicans, and look what they're getting. They're getting absolutely nothing. They're going to be ostracized. I mean, like, if they do something out of the norm, they're going to be ostracized. Whereas the Freedom Caucus people, they're going to do something. They're not going to be ostracized because they have the power now. Honestly, if I'm a moderate Republican, I would have basically done this, where I would have just voted for Jeffries, and then when everyone ostracized me, it's like, well, don't look at me. Look at those 20. Look at those 5. Look at those 5. Look at those 6. Look at those 20. We're rewarding them for not falling in line. Why should I, who was loyal to this party for so long, have to deal with basically all this crap and not get rewarded? Why do they get rewarded for being, you know, like, to break down our, you know, to break party lines practically? If they can do this, why can't I? Come back to me and do something for me, basically. And reality is, all the aspect is like, they could have worked with Jeffries to the point they could have gotten a lot something from with them as well too. It would have been a great thing to see, actually, if some, you know, 5 moderate Republicans had crossed the line and basically just gone to Jeffries, and you could put the whole blame on Gates and Boebert and the other 6 basically, or the remaining 6 or 20. It's like, it's on them. Don't put this on me. They held us hostage. And they basically are getting rewarded. I've been loyal to this party for X amount of years, and I'm getting nothing. What do I get? Nothing? No. If it's if it's every man for himself, then I'm watching out for me then. Because if he's watching out for himself, what's wrong with me watching out for myself? And then Big Gates is like, well, wait, hold on. I'm looking for the party line. I was like, no, you're not. You're looking out yourself. And you could do it publicly too, on camera, on the news programs, news feeds. Say, he's like, hey, they're getting rewarded for something, for like breaking party lines. Why am I not getting rewarded for being loyal? What do I get out of this? Absolutely nothing. So in this situation, like, you know what, be ostracized, and you know what, and then bring, and when it comes to time for, you know, elections and such, and like, you know, granted, you're not going to get the super PAC funding. You know what? Nowadays, you don't need a super PAC funding. I mean, yes, you do in a ways, but in certain aspects, you don't, because you know what you're going to do is basically use that base that you'll create a new base as a result of it. And also the other aspect is like, if you got those that are hating Trump, you just basically put on the your opponents, like in the primaries, like, hey, this guy's for Trump. He was for the January 6th insurrection. If you're for the January 6th insurrection, then you're against America. Simple as that. And I think that would be, I mean, I'm surprised no one's done that, actually. I'm surprised no one's ever done that. Where to the point where, like, any of these representatives that were being elected or running, they're like, well, you know, blah, and you know, you actually had some of them say, it's like, you know, the January 6th did not happen. And all you gotta say is, look, they supported January 6th, they supported the insurrection, they are basically against America. You vote for them, you vote for against America then. If you want to get, if you're not America, if you are against America, then vote for them. If you're for America, you vote for me, basically. Simple as that. That's what it comes down to. And I'm surprised no one did that. I'm really surprised no one did that. And please, for those that say, like, oh yeah, the January 6th was not an insurrection. It was a kind of a, it was more of a, you know, like, hey, we were taking back the party, we were taking back the house. No, you weren't. And the 100, you know, the 200 years, or in this case, the 118 uh, aspects of Congress that have been around, or yeah, 200 years basically, for the time that the country's been around, basically 200 plus years for Congress that is around. There's never been this much of an insurrection outside of the Civil War. There's never been this type of insurrection that's gone where people have gone into the Capitol and basically tried to, like, you know, overthrow the government. Now, granted, the Civil War, it was a case where, like, they never went in because, you know what, their representatives were there. Their representatives were there. There was never a need. So even during the Civil War, or prior to the Civil War, and even after the Civil War, no one had ever actually stormed the Capitol. So please don't tell me it's like, oh well, this is, you know, like, this is us saving the country. If that was the case, that's what representatives are for. That's what your representatives are for. And you chose not to use your representatives. You chose to storm the Capitol. You chose to basically go against your country. So please don't say. And I granted, now I'm sorry to say this, but I try not to be political. But in this situation, January 6th, when I literally saw it, um, it was not something that I, you know, it was unbelievable. And you know what? I'm going to create a second video right after this about the January 6th insurrection, where I was, etc. And discuss it more in depth a little bit. But right now, in this situation right now, is more of a case of McCarthy, what he gave up, what's going to happen with the Republican Party. Is this going to galvanize him? It possible. Will it do much? I don't know. For me, I've always thought of this, the country's always done good, or has always grown, as a result where if you had a Democrat president, it always would be good to have a Republican Congress, or vice versa. If it was a Republican Congress, it's best to have a Democratic Congress, because that's your true checks and balances. But with that, let me know what your thoughts are. Again, leave me some feedback, and if I cross the line with my politics, I didn't mean to. This is just me. Of course, again, this is me ranting, of course, and these are my opinions. My opinions alone. I don't represent anyone, any organization, any unit, any company, or anything like that. That's just me. And like, yeah, granted, I'll say this. I didn't do any fact checking. I'm basing on stuff that I've heard and such, basically. So, with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.